What's up, guys? Quantum Logic here. I'm going to be looking at a plugin today called Sub Destroyer from Joey Sturgis Tones. First off, I want to apologize for the audio quality. I'm nowhere near my studio. I'm on the other side of the country in Washington, D.C., visiting family for the holidays. So I'm in an untreated room and didn't bring any recording stuff with me, so I'm going to be using the internal mic right now, but still should get the audio from this just fine. So let's dive into this thing. So, team over at Joey Sturgis sent this over to me, and they asked about doing a plugin collab, and I looked through their plugins, and this is the one I thought that I would actually probably use the most. A lot of their stuff is really great, gain reduction, saturation, stuff more for live instruments and tracking, but there's, not really a lot of stuff that I saw that spoke to someone who does a lot of, sound design for electronic music and stuff like that, Don't see people in the neurofunk genre doing a whole lot of stuff with, much of it, but I figured this would be a cool one that really anybody can use, both doing regular live music and doing the grimy shit that we do. So let's check it out. So at its core, it's basically just a subsynth, 4 different wave types. You've got your sine, triangle, square, saw, and low pass filter for it, so you can set it, that's global, then an output knob. What really kind of drew me to this thing was the fact that it's got some cool features in it that generally you would have to reach for other plugins to do, and that's one of the things that I really like about it. Now, I'm not going to go through all these modes here. There's a couple of great videos on what they do, how they work, especially I recommend checking out the one that Clayton Cell Dweller did, where he goes into how to use the automation lanes to create gnarly reeses and stuff like that. Sub-drop mode is pretty cool. Just set your start and end frequency and your length. Fire, shoots out. MIDI just sets up your, whether you want it mono or polyphonic, portamento time, automatable volume, pitch bend range. But this is really where we're going to dive in. So I'll show you where I find myself using this most often. Like the most common use case for me is if I've created something in a sound design session, say a serum patch, something like that, that doesn't have a really clear and clean fundamental. This can really hammer home and add that low end bass. So I'll show you an example of that. I've got this little serum patch I made that's chugging along, but you can see in the meter that is not going to have like the clearest fundamental in it. So let's see it. So you can see it pretty much ends right below here. So adding that in, there's going to be a bunch of phasing in the low end because I'm using all sorts of flanger filters and stuff that's going to cause phasing in the sub range. And you want a nice clean rock solid sub. So with this plugin, it's pretty simple to get what you want. Basically, I'm just going to take this, copy this MIDI, go in here, select everything, drop it down an octave. Now you can see we've got this nice low end. Off. Back on. So it's that simple just to get the sub you want. But there's a couple of features that I really like about this, and that's really what I'm going to dive into in this. So let's just look right now at, and bring up this Sub Destroyer one. So right now we're just looking at a basic, simple sine wave, single fundamental. And a lot of times you're not going to be able to hear that. So you'll reach for things like waves R bass or saturator, something like that to add some harmonics on top of it. With this plugin, it's got all that built in. So we'll start out with the Harmonic Enhancer. So it's basically the same thing that R bass is doing. It's adding harmonics above a cutoff fundamental, and then you can shift those as to what order they are. So let me show you how that works. We're just on a clean sine. one fundamental, pure sine tone. But then we start to add, set a crossover frequency above our fundamental, turn on the harmonic enhancement, and you can see, boom, we've got bam, 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 harmonics popping up. So if I go here to the amount knob, you can kind of think of the amount knob as a prioritizer for second or third order harmonics. So it has a little bit blend of all of them in there, but shifting the amount knob, you can see it takes that second harmonic down, pushes the third and the fifth harmonic up. So basically it's prioritizing odd over even or even over odd with this, which I think is really rad. That's just a quick way to add that tone to your sub, you know, without having to load R-bass or something like that. You know, really quick for the workflow, just get you right in the wheelhouse of where you want to be. And the other one that's kind of cool is this drive knob. So you can see we're back to just a clean sub. If I enable the drive with no drive on it, you can see this harmonic right here, which I believe is going to be the third harmonic, just instantly pops up. So off, on, peaks the setup here. As I increase the drive, we start seeing that come up, and then the fifth, the seventh. So, you know, just like any saturator, it's going to be prioritizing odd harmonics, and you can actually see that as it starts to square the wave off here. Which is pretty cool in its own right. You know, it helps to limit the sub you've got coming in. But what I found really cool is this character knob. So from a sound design standpoint, I'm always looking for ways to exploit, you know, cool and unique features of a distortion that, you know, normally people wouldn't think about, but I want to use to my advantage. So this is one of them. So the best way I can demonstrate this is load up an oscilloscope, and so we'll turn this off. See, we just got a clean sine wave now. When I engage this, brings the peak down a little because we're clipping, and that's what's bringing up the harmonics. It's lopping the peaks off as we hit the drive up. Pushes it almost to like a saw square. So not a pure square, because you don't need that since you've got this. But as we go here, you're going to see what the character knob does. So you can kind of think of the character knob as a pulse width control for the squaring of the waveform that you've been doing. We're compressing that sine down with drive, creating harmonics above the fundamental. And as I turn this up, now what's cool is as you're doing that with the pulse width, you can see here on span, it's bringing up more full range harmonics by modulating the pulse width. So, sort of at a blend between even and odd. A couple of weird dips here, which I like. It's those weird dips and those weird gaps that give you the, you know, the character of the distortion. So it's not just like using a sine or a sawtooth wave that's just going to have evenly distributed even and odd. It's not just like using a square wave that's just odd harmonics. It's something unique. I've also found you can get some cool tones by setting a LFO to modulate this thing, whether it's like Ableton's MIDI LFO or anything like that. But you can get kind of a recent tone. But yeah, it's pretty dope as you look at this. You can see what it's doing to the waveform. I mean, it's got its own oscilloscope here, but really on a stable one, you can see we're taking this sine wave, squaring it up, and then changing the wave. We're folding more of it down, bringing up more of those even harmonics sort of in a random series, which is rad, because usually you'd have to reach for something like a saturator or you know, some sort of inbuilt distortion to do this. But I found this is rad. Well, I've got the scope open. Let me show you the harmonic content too. So as I turn this on, you can see it's reshaping the wave, the edges of that, to create that balance between the even and odd harmonics and change and shape them. So that's definitely a nifty little feature. But really it's in this drive that I've been messing around a lot. Same thing, you can get some really cool shapes and waves here when you engage both of them. So you can see it's creating a really weird, like, dipped square and everything like that. And then it gets even doper if you start to mess with things like saws. So it's kind of cool when you're playing with the sawtooth wave. It gives you both the character of saw overlaid with a square. This is just out of a small little plugin that's really just made to do sub bass. So you know, it's kind of limitless what you do with it, and especially you know, if you want to whack on some crazy, you know, sine compression racks and stuff like that to really drive it home. Makes it cool. I've also done a couple of things where I've loaded it as multi-racks, multi-instrument racks, and created layers with it. You know, it's really up to you what you do, but at its core, it's just a really easy way to add low end to your bass. And if you want to drive it, give it a little edge, give it a little character. Super easy. No longer having to reach for saturator or decapitator or something like that. Same thing here. No longer having to reach for R bass to add those nice low subs. So I put this together in a little project here so you can sort of see how it's working with just this little riff I came up with today. So let's check that out. So yeah, basically I've just got what you saw me do down here, copying it over that serum patch I did. And let's check it. So yeah, it's definitely a nifty plugin. A couple cool things you can do with it. I really do like this fire mode though. You know, I didn't delve into it because Cell Dweller did such a good job on that one. I just sort of wanted to dive in and show you the way it's folding back the waves and the cool things you can exploit with it. You know, one last quick one I can show you before I bounce out of here is let's load a little crazy rack on here and see what happens. All right, so I've thrown on one of my crazy processing chains here that I use to do Reese's and stuff. So let's just see what happens when you feed Sub Destroyer here. So yeah, you can see you can pretty wild with it. You know, it's really up to you. So cool, man. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Please go check it out. Go support Joey Sturgis Tones. He's a dope engineer, makes some great plugins, and yeah, I like this one. So enjoy.